First game on my list. All right. This is Iowa State, Louisiana Lafayette. Raging Cajuns, Iowa State. Now, Ellis, my good friend Ellis Tolbert, is going to have a show tomorrow night. Go check him out over on Facebook. He was telling me Iowa State's going to be good, going to be a good contender. And I was really looking forward to this game. But I believe that Brock Purdy and the Cyclones kind of fell flat on that game. Was kind of disappointed there. So a little bit frustrated. Now it looks like, again, here we go again, Oklahoma State. We'll find out about Oklahoma State come Saturday. But Oklahoma looks pretty legit. Here we go again. Spencer Rattler again. Same old thing again. So what do you guys think? Do you think that Iowa State, is this one of those things they'll trip up, but they'll correct it? Or is this one of those things where, sound the alarms? Because this is one that I picked. I don't remember what you guys picked on this one. I think Al picked Louisiana. I'm not sure, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Houston and I both picked Louisiana. We kind of nailed this one, which is great because we didn't do great over the weekend. We did all right. We certainly weren't 4-4, were we, Houston? So, I think we did pretty well picking against the spread. We went 5-3. I really thought the FSU game was going to make something happen for us. They looked pretty comfortable early, and of course, then they got the huge upset from Georgia Tech. How embarrassing for Florida State, a once proud program. But Iowa State, yeah, I think they can bounce back from this. I think they typically start slow. We talked about Brock Purdy. We've talked him up in the offseason as well. So I don't think it's going to be a huge deal. Again, it wasn't a conference game, so I think they have time to right the ship. Now, will they? Or who knows? We'll see how it goes. But I think this Louisiana team was better than people were giving credit for.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I personally said that they've had a track record of struggling in game one. So don't mean to toot my own horn, but I'm kind of tooting my own horn here. And that's why I think they'll be able to at least somewhat right the ship. With a 10-game season or 11-game season, how many ever the Big 12 is doing, I'm not sure. How much of a course correction they'll be able to do in a short amount of time. I certainly think that there are some major issues speed-wise to be able to keep up with the Oklahomas and the Oklahoma States and the Texas of the world. But let's be real. Iowa State lost, but the Big 12 did not look good this weekend at all. They looked bad. And so if you're in a conference to be able to right the ship, the Big 12 is the right conference to be in for Iowa State.
I'm hearing that the Big 12 is now having a emergency meeting on closing down things for COVID. That's a complete rumor and a lie from my mouth. But I hear that they after those 3 big losses, they now don't want to play football. It's not that important for them. But again, I'm just joking there. And chat is saying don't dwell on Iowa State. I'm dwelling on Iowa State because I lost it, but you guys won it. So Louisiana definitely came out hot, looks good. Billy Napier, a hot name, a big-time commodity. Maybe he gets a big jump in pay raise or in another school coming up soon. So look forward to see what Louisiana can do. UNC kind of started out slow, maybe some first game jitters type thing. First game stubbed their toe there, and Sam Howell threw an interception, 1 or 2, I believe, and then they finally came alive in the fourth quarter, so it was good to see. Texas, actually, James is in chat. Texas did cover that big giant spread, by the way, so good job there, Texas. Texas is back, at least against the University of Texas El Paso. Notre Dame, another one. Notre Dame, like we said, now I don't remember if all of us said this, but I know I said it. Notre Dame beat Duke last year by 20. The spread or 21, the spread was 20. I felt like Chase Bryce would account for at least a touchdown to keep it closer, and that's what happened. So they won by 14, but it was kind of back and forth there. A lot of 3-and-outs for Notre Dame. They couldn't figure out their identity. Looked like Ian Book didn't know who to throw it to, and it kind of is what we mentioned last week. But they did find someone, Kyron Williams, 112 yards, 2 touchdowns. So they now have a running back in the mix. So here's the thing. I'm seeing stuff, collegefootballnews.com. Notre Dame is going to right the ship next week, and they're going to be right back to number 2 team in the ACC. For me, this is a sign of more to come of just lackluster offense and just averageness from the Golden Helmets. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I kind of tend to agree with that. I actually picked this one wrong. I believe I picked Notre Dame to cover that spread. I was a little, I questioned whether Chase Bryce was going to be able to get it done as the man. And man, what a game he had. Chase Bryce looked really good. I mean, he didn't have the eye-popping stats or anything like that. Didn't have a lot of touchdowns. I understand that. But we talked about this last week, even though, I questioned whether he'd be able to do it or not. It was because of the people around him for the most part. And we hadn't seen a lot of him in game action. Obviously, we certainly haven't seen him as the man except for the one game against Syracuse. And he played really well. I mean, his throws were on point. I was very, very excited for him, very proud of him, and hope he continues to do that. I'd like to bet a little bit on Duke going forward, and hopefully they can kind of take that next step. I would like to see him have some success for sure because he deserves it. He played a great game against Notre Dame. It just wasn't enough.
Yeah, I agree. And just to think about this, you have an extra year of eligibility. So now Chase Bryce has 3 years counting this year. You could really see David Cutcliffe being able to build a program around Chase Bryce. He had a great game. It just his supporting cast wasn't all there. I know there were some turnovers that were really key. I did end up getting this pick right. And for me, even though a lot of people are saying that Notre Dame is still number 2, I heard a podcast today said that Notre Dame still is very capable of beating Clemson. I think what Duke did is provide a game plan going forward of more talented teams to be able to beat them. The Ian Book did not look spectacular. And if you're able to take away that run game, then basically what you're going to be able to do is making them one-dimensional and make Ian Book beat you as a recipe for disaster for the Fighting Irish.
And just to finish up segment number 1, this is kind of the highlight or the big part of my rant, my $2 bill thoughts for the weekend or over the weekend from Florida. So we got 2 teams, Miami, Hurricanes, and then Florida State. Let's hold Florida State to the end. I want to get the juicy stuff at the end. But Miami, all right, Al, big on Miami preseason. So coming in, now that you've watched what Miami can do with De'Aaron King, what are your thoughts? My thoughts are these, that he's heavily having to run the ball, okay? Mm-hmm. He's coming out in some very obvious passing plays where not designed to run it, has no one to throw it to, so then he has to run. Now, the good thing is he's a very talented runner, and he is successful in running the ball, and he was successful running the ball. They also have Cameron Harris, who is a really good running back as well. So they kind of developed this tandem of a 1-2 punch there. And Clemson's going to be playing them in a couple of weeks towards the beginning of October. So we'll be looking forward to see how they continue to develop that relationship. Not really too concerned about their passing game, but their running game seems to start to have something going early on. Are you feeling good about Miami still, or what's your thoughts?
I'm feeling pretty average, really, against Miami. They actually covered the spread. I picked them to cover the spread, and they did cover the spread. So you would think overall it'd be a pretty good win. I was relatively unimpressed with what I saw. I don't want to say with what I saw from De'Aaron King because he had a good game. He played well. He looks like he's bulked up a little more. He looks a little bit slower than he used to look at Houston. I kind of noticed that. He was just a dynamic playmaker in Houston, and he kind of was in this game. He had his fair share of plays, don't get me wrong, but I was looking for a little bit more from him. We know he's going to take off and run. He doesn't have an offensive line. I was kind of disappointed with Rhett Lashley's play calling. And I think Houston actually mentioned this. Houston was not sold on him. I saw a lot of runs up the middle, a lot of counter plays, and I'm like, these guys don't have an offensive line. What are you doing? Now, a lot of them ended up getting broken for bigger runs, but it's not because they were that good of play calls or anything like that. It's because the defense just couldn't make a play. And that's not going to happen against teams that aren't named UAB. So I was a little disappointed, but overall they had a decent game. I wasn't overly impressed with their defense. But look, they held them to 14 points. That's not bad. So I can't really say I'm high on them right now after what I saw, but they did cover the spread. So you got to give them a little credit there.
That is exactly what I was going to say. Rhett Lashley, not impressed. Trying to run similar to the Auburn 2013 offense, which at the time was considered revolutionary. Now that could get snuffed out very quickly, especially when you don't have the talent like that 2013 Auburn team. De'Aaron King is, to me, kind of in the same par as Nick Marshall. Not a great passer, very good runner. But Louisville might have a chance to expose similarly what I think is the recipe for disaster for Notre Dame. Take away the run game for Miami and make De'Aaron King have to beat you with his arm. That could be a real problem playing Louisville this weekend for Miami.
And then the other team from Florida, the team we love to hate, Florida State. Florida State, who, James asked us in chat. He asked us multiple times, what was our thought? I told him in chat, I said, hey, this is not an easy one to pick because Georgia Tech is on the rise. Florida State is trying not to just close their program down. But there's a little bit of hope considering you have a new quarterback. Now, here's the thing. That game was terrible, but it also, any momentum that they had, that game was kind of squashed at the beginning because of bad weather. So they had like a 73-minute delay? I don't know what it was. I'm just exaggerating there. But Florida State comes out, gets a score, and then they get on a huge delay, have to kind of reset and start over. And then Georgia Tech, I'm getting asked on Twitter, is Jeff Sims the real deal? Well, we talked about Jeff Sims being a good recruit, and not only that, how embarrassed do you have to be as a Florida State fan to know that a former commit just came into your house, won the starting job at a rebuilding school that just has a second-year coach, came into your house and won the game. Now, and also put 277 yards on you. So, is Jeff Sims the real deal? Well, I'm a big person against awarding the Heisman week one. Let's not award the Heisman to anyone week one. But yes, he did well. But as I responded to Blake on Twitter, it's not so much that Florida State or Georgia Tech is awesome now. It's probably more that Florida State is just still terrible, really, really bad, and has got a long way to go. And Mike Norvell, obviously we talked about this last week, didn't start off on the right foot, got called out on social media for some, mistruths. And, so they got a lot to repair there. And if you're a Georgia Tech fan, you're happy. If you're a Florida State fan, I don't even know why they want to play any more games after that.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough road for Florida State. I mean, we got to talk about some of the games that I picked right, because this is not one I picked correctly. I picked FSU, and like I said, I thought early that I was going to be in good shape. I was like, I'm going to pick one up on these guys. And the delay happened, and man, Florida State never got any semblance of momentum after that thing. It was awful. It was boring to watch, but the only reason it kept you, it kept you watching is because you were wanting them to pull the upset. You were wanting Georgia Tech to pull the upset. Once I realized the spread wasn't going to be covered, I'm like, go Jackets. I don't want FSU to win. It's that's kind of the way I felt about it. It was not pretty. I think Georgia Tech gets brought back down to earth and they play Central Florida this week. But we'll see how that goes. But I think the spread is only like 7.5. I think that's way off. But what do I know? I only went 5-3 last week, right?
Spoiler alert.
Whoa! No, I called the Georgia Tech game. Now I didn't pick Georgia Tech outright, but I did pick Georgia Tech in the spread. I think Central Florida is going to wax Georgia Tech. I'm sorry. Neither of those teams. I called it even when I wrote last week on SouthlandClub.com. It was a mistake-filled, ugly game. Georgia Tech had 3 kicks blocked. It's a miracle they were able to get that last field goal in anyway. I am. Both of those teams are bad, and that's the only way that I can put it. And I just feel like if you're a Florida State fan looking at this game, it's almost like an exact replica of Game 1 under Willie Taggart. Now, you aren't blown out at home, but it's got that same feel. Like you have a big drive at the beginning of the game, and then the air just gets sucked out of the program. And I think this is going to last for a while. It wouldn't surprise me if Florida State struggles with Jacksonville State. Coming up on the schedule, Jacksonville State's a very good team. Zarek Cooper's good. Hey, look, you laugh. Florida State.
I agree.
Florida State lost a couple years ago to Virginia Tech and then struggled the next week with Samford. It sucked the air right out of the program, and it wouldn't surprise me if it happens again. This is going to be a major problem. Georgia Tech, on the other hand, I mean, I think they could be 4-6, 5-5 at the end of the year, or 5-6, 6-5, something like that. They're decent enough to win against some games against some lower competition, but against some upper tier ACC competition, they're going to struggle, I think.
As my dad always says, couldn't happen to a nicer person or nicer crowd there. So